Okay, so we are recording automatically. Perfect. Hello, Victor. Thank you for joining on time. We will wait for a few minutes until more people join. Maybe the notification popped up for them and they plan to join. So we'll take a few more minutes. Okay. Hello, Imen. Welcome. So, Imen, we are just waiting for a few more people to join before getting started. I guess we will start at 10 past at the latest. So just a bit more patience, please. Thank you.
Imen, Victor, did you have any problem when joining? It was everything okay?
Hello? No, I didn't have any issue.
It was easy. You were able to access without any problem, right?
No issue. I just used the link and the invitation, and I was redirected to the application, the Teams application, and yeah, that's it.
Okay, because there are 20 people registered, and it's a little bit strange that only you two joined. So I just want to check that there wasn't any technical problem with the link or anything. But if you were able to join, it worked well.
Yeah, I have no issue.
I think also, Stephanie, that most of the people it's with personal emails, so they need to access the link to be able to see the chat. Oh, look. Okay. We have one more.
Okay. I mean, we can begin. At least it will be nice and intimate, and we can introduce each other, get to know your different positions and your experience. So we can make something positive out of this. Maybe.
I had probably Ilya, but
hello, Sunday. Welcome. Okay, let's start. Maybe since we are not so many, we can take the time for a round of introduction. So if you have enough bandwidth, battery, whatever, if you can turn on your camera for a second so we can see you and you can introduce yourselves, that would be super nice. We don't often have the opportunity to do that. So let's take it today. Iman, since you have your camera open, do you want to introduce yourself first?
Yes, hello. Sure. Sorry if there is a loud noise.
It's okay.
Okay. So my name is Iman Kouti. I'm from Tunisia, and I am currently with the MSF Okba pool, supply pool. Currently, I am between missions, so I'm waiting for my next assignment. I had missions in two missions in DRC, Congo, as supply manager and procurement manager. A mission in Afghanistan as the supply activity manager, and my last mission was in Burkina Faso.
Okay, nice to meet you. Thank you. And thank you for taking the time today. Where are you? Are you in Tunisia right now?
Yes, in Tunis.
Okay, nice. I can see some blue sky behind you. It's a very strange thing. I haven't seen that in a long time.
It's very nice weather.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Is anyone else ready to introduce themselves? Victor or Sunday or the person in Malakal who's joining us? Victor, where are you joining from?
hello. I'm Jody from Nigeria.
Nigeria. Okay, nice. Welcome.
Yes.
So what's your position? So you are in a mission right now in Nigeria, or you are home?
Nigeria mission.
Construction manager. Okay.
Construction manager. Okay. Nice. Very
this
good.
is Sunday saying construction manager, not Victor.
Sunday is the construction manager. Great. And Sunday, you are in. Sorry, I cannot see the chat at the same time.
Is in Nigeria also?
Nigeria as well. Okay. Yeah. Excellent. Okay. Okay, very nice. Corentine, do you want to introduce yourself?
So my name is Corentine Berthet. I'm based in Geneva. I've been with MSF since a couple of years in the field and in headquarters. And since 2020, I focus on supply chain and procurement sustainability in collaborations with the global procurement unit with Stephanie here today. Voilà.
Thank you. So yes, I'm Stephanie. I'm part of the global procurement unit, and I manage everything that's linked to the procurement process in general. So I don't do operational procurement myself, but I work in collaboration with those who do. And I try to help them getting strong standards in place, having making their lives easier by having templates, guidelines, tools at hand that they can use in their day-to-day. And in GPU, we consider that sustainable procurement is part of the procurement process. And so that's why I'm in charge of that area. And like Corentine was saying, we collaborate very closely, and you will understand as we present our approach. We collaborate very closely with Corentine and her team to have a comprehensive approach to sustainable procurement. I'm based in Brussels, and that's why I was saying I haven't seen blue skies in a long time. It's a very dark time of the year for us. And I've been in this position for about 4 years. And before that, I've been with OCG in the field and also with other organizations before coming back to MSF. Voilà. So again, thank you all for taking the time in between missions or during your mission to join us. And thank you, Anna, for setting us up. If you need to go, please don't feel like you have to stay.
Okay.
But thanks for the technical support.
No problem. I'll let you have an even more intimate webinar.
Thank you.
See you later for the French version.
Thank you. Ciao,
Bye.
ciao. Thanks. Right. Okay. So we have about an hour and a half today, a bit more, a bit less. I mean, because it's already 1:15. But some general info about what we have for you today. We have a fairly classic presentation. We've put some questions along the presentation just to keep you engaged and to also initiate a reflection, maybe based on what we share. Especially since we are a very small group, feel free to raise your hand or ask your questions at any point. And obviously, at the end of the webinar series, you will receive the presentation deck that we share today, along with like a few summary information. Voilà. So before we start, maybe if you can just quickly say or use the chat to say how you feel today, if you are energized, if you are tired, sick, really happy or really stressed. It will just it will just give us an idea in general of the mood in the room and help us adjust. So personally, I would say I'm quite tired. And I'm also a bit under the weather. I'm still a bit, always a bit sick in the winter. But still, I have good energy this afternoon. And yeah, I hope to be able to share it with you. So
somebody else joined the meeting. Zaki.
Yes, two more.
And I'm also fine, although yeah, the end of the year is quite tough. But I'm happy to be with you guys.
Hello,
Thank
Zaki.
you so much. Hello.
Where are you joining us from, Zaki?
Yes, I'm from Yemen.
Yemen. Okay, nice.
Yeah.
And are you in a mission right now or in between?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
I'm in apps project.
Okay. And what's your position?
Log manager.
Log manager. Cool. Okay. Welcome. We have different profiles in the room, so that's good.
Thank you so much.
Excellent. So, like I was saying, today we have about an hour and a half. We want to share with you what happens in MSF around sustainability, what the organization is committed to, what has been done so far, and what our ambitions are. The chunk of the presentation will revolve around the 7 steps of good, Iman. Good to know. Excellent. The bulky part of the presentation will be about the procurement process and how to bring more sustainability into the process in general. So we'll try to use examples and to guide you around a set of reference documents that exist in MSF to help you. And then we should have some time for questions, conclusions, discussion, whatever the room brings for the end of the session. So this week we are conducting 3 sessions like this one in French, in English, and in Spanish. today and tomorrow. So after that, we'll do a wrap up and we'll share with you the contents. Okay, any questions or any technical difficulties that we need to know of? Anybody need to leave at some point? Feel free. It's great if you can stay, but if you have operational constraints, of course, we don't keep you. If no questions, or Corentin, do you want to add anything?
No, I just want to add that I'm extremely happy to see that we don't speak only to procurement people, because sustainable procurement is also is a shared responsibility with requesters as well. So I'm super happy. Voilà.
Absolutely. Yes. Welcome, everyone. Great. Okay. So to begin with, we have a question. You can use the chat to answer. What do you, in your opinion, what is the definition of climate change? There are 4 propositions you can read through and use the chat to make your suggestion. I don't know if all of you are able to use the chat. If you prefer to open your mic and say, that's fine as well. Okay, so indeed it's answer B. When we talk about climate change, we talk about a slow and steady shift in weather patterns that we observe. And most importantly, it is entirely, mostly caused by human activities, okay? And since we know that, we have a responsibility to take measures also long-term to mitigate our impact and our the weight that we have in those in this shift. So we have another question again, and actually I'm quite interested in your replies since you are all based in interesting parts of the world. Have you experienced in the past year extreme weather events? So that's hurricanes, floods, droughts, untimely snow or heat, for example? Yeah. Okay, so yes, indeed, we talk about climate change, and climate change brings change in seasonality, for example, but also on top of that, we can observe more and more extreme weather events. Yes, floods, etc. And most of them actually, the most impactful weather events happen in the countries where we work as MSF. So again, the purpose of asking this question now is to make you aware of how much MSF is concerned in our activities, in our ambitions as an organization by climate change and by topics around sustainability. So it's really a topic that is at the center of what we do. And therefore, as an organization, we take steps to mitigate our impact. So we see around the world, on the entire African continent, in the global south, to be geographically correct, we see a lot on the news of information about extreme weather events, and often the countries where they happen really match the countries where we work. So what do we do as MSF? We put in place a climate and environment framework. Since 2020, MSF has taken strong positions to commit to mitigating its impact on climate change. So first, in 2020, there was an environmental pact signed by the IGA, the the National General Assembly, the International Board, and the full EXCOM. So this was like the first time that climate change was officially recognized as a topic that required commitment from MSF. It then translated into a carbon reduction pledge. So you see immediately the shift from the commitment to protect the environment to link to the carbon emissions of the organization. And then there were further statements in 2022, as well as joining the Charter for Humanitarian Organizations to also align with other initiatives going on in the sector. It's safe to say today that MSF knows it needs to address the environmental impact of our activities. And I think in general, Corentine and myself agree on that. It's one of the organizations that genuinely invests into these work streams, that we consistently challenge ourselves also on the initiatives that we take. And it's often quite reassuring to see that we are, how do I say, the actions that we take are mostly in line with what, for example, ministries of health or national health agencies choose to do. And in the humanitarian sector in general, we are, I would say, we are quite consistent and honest in the positions that we have towards the environment and our corporate social responsibility, even though we cannot really call it corporate social responsibility. We talked about the overall ambitions of MSF, what as an organization we have tried to put in place, but actually it translates into a lot of initiatives across MSF entities across the world. So we're curious to know if yourselves, especially as log managers, construction managers, supply managers, have you been involved by far or close in a green initiative in the past 3 years? It can be in an MSF position or elsewhere. Okay. Okay, Zaki, if you have enough, internet, can you tell us quickly about the initiative you've been involved in, or Imen?
Yes, actually,
Oh
as a
yeah,
log
you sound really
manager,
good actually. Okay, good.
yes. We are considering, for example, in the HVAC department,
Okay.
for the procurement, for the Ferion gas, which type of Ferion gas are friendly with the environment.
Mm-hmm.
As R22 is forbidden, and we
Yeah.
are using the alternatives. And also
Okay.
in sizing the generators, also we are considering the hybrid systems with solar
Mm-hmm.
systems. Also, in the supply process for the evaluation and the validation, e-validation, without using the papers anymore, we are reducing
Uh-huh.
the amount of the produced paper.
Okay.
A lot of activities also in the electricity. So since 2021, when
Okay.
I was with in the project in Hodeidah, and now also with Okba, we are considering the same. Most of the activities, we are considering the environment impact, and also how to reduce the emission of the dioxide, the carbon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, nice. You'll see, we'll talk a little bit. We have an example around the HVAC specifically, so maybe you can complete our content when we get to that. Thank you,
Yes.
Zaki. Imen, do you want to share the initiative you've been involved with?
Yes, the first initiative was back in 2021, but wasn't with MSF. It was with another organization. But they have introduced sustainable procurement, so it was involved in all the criteria to select the suppliers. And with MSF, mostly with the optimizing transportation,
Okay.
especially with air, with the airplane. was involved in.
Okay, nice. We'll also touch on that. Corentine, I hand over to you for the next few slides. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so I'll talk about other initiatives that are ongoing and that you may have heard about. So there was the TIC Climate Smart program, which I was part of, that lasted from 2021 until last year. And the objective was here to actually to scale up environmentally sustainable solution across the movement, support MSF, various MSF entities in their different plans. And we actually, so we had like 6 main work streams. The first one was on roadmap, meaning helping basically HQ to design their roadmap on climate and environmental actions. We also work on energy transition, and for that we have we even went to the field and helped some projects to install energy meter in order to focus on hotspots and provided some guidance. So we did this. I'm not sure we did it with OGPA. Carbon accounting here, we developed a methodology common to all sections in order to estimate the CO2 emissions in the same way and be able then to consolidate all of them. So we'll see this after. Supply chain procurement, that's the work stream I was working on, and you will hear about it later, of course. Business travel. So here we developed an app to help people comparing various transportation mode and various routes, etc. You will also see later how it looks like. You can also use it yourself. We also developed a guidance for the different entities to know where they could how they could improve on reducing the CO2 emission generated by the flights. Of course, not only used by the expats. There is no point. We are not saying there that we will send expats to the missions using boats. But it's more that there is also a strong focus on people flying, I mean, in headquarters to meet in some places. Voilà. That's where there is still a big room for improvement. And on knowledge here, we developed a number of webinars, online trainings that are more or less used by the different entities. So now this project is over. In parallel to the Climate Smart, there was, the different entities developed their roadmaps, as I mentioned it earlier. So now we have all OCs and supply centers that have their own roadmap and that are now still working on translating them into action plans. This roadmap, so in total there are 6. 6 exactly. They account for 90% of the total MSF carbon footprint. Voilà. And while some solution in these roadmaps, they require specific action from the various entities. So for instance, when it comes to energy transition, actually we realize that's something that must be driven by the different OCs. What can be done at movement level is the kind of work we are doing together with Steph on sustainable procurement, providing new guidance and tools that then needs to be implemented by the different entities. Next slide. So have you ever seen the OGPA Climate and Environmental Roadmap? A, not that I recall, and B, yes, I have seen it. Can you type please in the chat? Cool. No. I'm still waiting a bit. Okay. Okay, super interesting. Okay, it reflects. Okay, actually, it reflects what we have already seen when doing this webinar with other groups. So only half of you have seen the roadmap. these are actually the high level ambitions that were set in the different roadmaps, focusing on 4 main domains: energy, transport and travel, goods and services, and waste. So, for instance, on energy, we committed to reduce our energy consumption of 30 to 40%. Why do we have here a range? It's because actually, depending on which entity they decided to do, some decided to do 30, others 40, so that's why we speak here of ranges. We also committed to use more renewable energy. On transport and travel, we want to reduce the consumption of fuel for our own fleet, and of course also to reduce the business air travel. Sorry. On the transport of goods and services, here we want to shift for more sea transport and reduce, of course, the air freight, which is generating lots of emission. On goods and services, here we speak about reducing the carbon intensity of our goods and services that we buy of 25 to 30%, and also to assess our biggest suppliers against sustainability criteria. And on waste, we want to reduce up to 50% the amount of waste in kilo that we generate. So these are wide ambitions. In terms of carbon footprint, on the left side, you can see what was the baseline, which is the ones against which we monitor our progress, 2019. And then on the right side, you have the status in 2023. As you can see, we are not in track at all. And what's important also to know is that the purchase of goods and services account for half of the emissions that we generate. This is only when we focus on CO2 emissions. You will see that actually, this focus has a strong limitation, and it's not always reflecting all the efforts that are made, and especially what Zaki mentioned earlier, what he has put in place. I'm not sure we managed to track properly what all the efforts that are done at field level when we focus only on CO2 emissions. In the red field at the top of the slide, here is the link to a Power BI report where you can find other kind of CO2 analysis. Going to the next slide, we can dig a bit into the supply chain. There is also another CO2 Power BI focusing on the purchased goods that we order from our supply centers. We can see also the transportation, and we focus also on specific products like single-use medical items. Again, in the field, the red part of the upper part of the slide here, you can make a focus for OCPA on some category of products, etc. It's only for the international supply chain. Unfortunately, so far we don't have the visibility at field level, and with OCPA it will become even more complicated because as you know, you are the only OC using another system. So voilà. It's very likely that when we will integrate data at field level, we'll focus on data that are provided through Unifield by other OCs, and then OCPA will be added. Voilà. Next slide. Here it's just a snapshot of the travel app. So here you can enter from where to where you want to travel using which type of transport, and it generates the CO2 emissions. You can make comparison between different routes, and again you can also select using this file what is the best meeting place if you organize a meeting with different people from various offices, which is maybe less the case for you in the field, but yeah. Next slide. So this is maybe more for you, Iman. This is an Excel file basically that helps you estimating the CO2 emissions using different transportation mode. Yeah, voilà. For instance, if you want to compare the CO2 emissions for the transportation, again, using the sea freight from MSF log and then road transportation within the country, compared to delivery directly from a manufacturer in the neighboring country, this is what this tool can help you with. Voilà. So now digging more into the various solutions that you can find in the different roadmaps developed by the OC. Basically, when we focus only on procurement related solutions, without any surprise, I would say, 70% of the solutions, they are common to most of the roadmaps. So basically, focusing at supplier level, you have solutions saying that we need to develop environmental criteria to select greener supplier, greener transport companies. And then when you look at solutions focusing on product and service level, it says that we need to look at items that are generating less waste, less emissions, using less plastic, that are more energy efficient, that have a longer lifespan. So all of this is very much focusing on the products. And again, all these solutions, they are common to all OCs. Hence, that's the reason why actually it's interesting to work it in a mutualized way, as we are doing it with the global procurement unit. Next slide. Here is just a broad overview of the sustainable procurement guidelines that were developed at international level. And where it says that, indeed, we need to focus on the origin of product and material. We need to look at the product composition, the packaging. So all to say that these guidelines is totally in line with the solutions that are defined in the different roadmaps. These guidelines is meant actually to be translated into the different OCs procurement guidelines. I'm not sure so far it is translated into OCPA guidelines, but that's one of the next steps that we are aiming for. Doesn't mean that you're not working on sustainable procurement, but maybe it has not been formalized yet. Voilà. Next, voilà. Another point that is important to mention is that today in the presentation we speak only about procurement. There are solutions that are related to supply chain and transport. So I thought it was important for you to just to let you know that yes, indeed, solutions are also focusing at how we can improve, especially the planning all along our supply chain, because that's definitely where we can have a big impact as well in trying to through a better planning, better anticipation, we'll manage to to switch from air to sea freight. Not all products, of course. Cold chain items will still have to be shipped by air. But we will also, by improving our forecasting, and I know that OCPA has already done big efforts on that, by improving the forecasting, we will also reduce the amount of expiry items. So voilà, that was just for you to know that this is also ongoing, but that it's not managed by our teams, Stephanie and I. It is managed under the supply chain agenda, the big supply chain agenda for transformation, and these people in the supply chain unit of OCPA are working on it. So now, what are the challenges that we are encountering? Basically, what I shown earlier on CO2 emissions, it has strong limitations. The way we estimate CO2 emissions is based on the amount that we paid for the good that we procured. This method is one that is used very broadly, not only in the humanitarian sector, but everywhere, meaning that if the goods become more expensive, automatically it will have a bigger footprint in your carbon report. Of course, so we have people working on the carbon accounting. Of course, they factor in also the the impact of the inflation in order to provide a more accurate vision of how we progress on CO2 emission. But yeah, this is one of the strong limitations. And secondly, there is no standardized method that we can give our supplier to provide their product carbon footprint. Meaning that today we use the same emission factors for all kind of, if you buy one pen from one supplier and another one from another supplier, two pens that are manufactured in very different places, we will use the same emission factor. And if we give, and again, today, there is no standard methodology, meaning that if we ask the supplier to share their product carbon footprint, it's very likely that all of them will try to give, to use their own methodology and of course to provide the lower product carbon footprint. And we won't be able to compare apple with apple. So voilà, that's something that you have to keep in mind. Last thing, when a supplier tells us, yeah, I managed to reduce my carbon footprint, we don't know how to factor this information into our own carbon footprint. Having said that, what is important to know is that it's not all about climate climate meaning CO2 emissions. It is also about environmental impacts, and the environmental impacts, there are many. It's about it's also about all kind of pollutions, and on that we are also working, and we have different initiatives that are ongoing. So voilà, the carbon is one thing. It's a good starting point, but we have also to take into account other things. Next slide. Voilà.
Thank you. So I will try to share a quick video, a short video that short video that we developed to present our approach overall. It's very quick and dense, but we will go through the different parts that it presents, basically. I will try to share, and you can let me know if you can see. No, you cannot see my screen now. You cannot see the video screen. I have to share it directly.
No,
okay. I will share it differently then. Here we go. Okay, you can see it now?
Yes.
Cool.
Sustainable procurement in MSF is the continuity of our humanitarian mission. It ensures that our products and services are procured from sustainable sources with the least environmental and most positive social impact, with the best value for money. Half of our carbon footprint originates externally through the purchase of goods and services. To cut our carbon emissions by 50% by 2030, it's vital that we engage with our suppliers so that they take responsibility for the environmental and social impacts of their products and services from manufacturing to disposal. There are two key focuses during the procurement process. First, we ensure that our suppliers operate in a manner that does not exploit workers or harm the environment. Next, we select products or services that have a reduced environmental impact throughout their entire life cycle, compared to conventional alternatives. We want our suppliers from whom we purchase more than 100,000 euros annually to actively contribute to our environmental commitments and social standards. This applies at the level of the field, operational centers, partner sections, and supply centers. To ensure these standards are met, we recommend incorporating sustainability into the comparative bid analysis. The recommendation is to assign a weight of 10 to 20% to sustainability when selecting a product or supplier. All parties involved in procurement play a vital role in setting criteria that drive sustainability. To support this, we've developed a supplier code of conduct. It's available in 4 languages and is now part of our standard contractual terms. We also provide tools that help assess the maturity level of our suppliers regarding sustainability and assist them in improving their practices. EcoVadis is a global provider of sustainability ratings based on documentation audits. The assessments are tailored to specific industry sectors, with answers reviewed by EcoVadis experts. This tool requires minimal effort from MSF. The workload is handled by EcoVadis and the turnaround time is around 4 months. For regions outside of Europe, where EcoVadis is unknown but also during tendering process, we have developed the Sustainability Questionnaire as a backup solution. It's a quick and simple online survey tool. Our goal is to support and guide suppliers towards sustainability, not to reject them based on poor scores. Critical suppliers must be assessed uniformly, with no questions omitted, to ensure a complete understanding of their sustainability practices. Sustainable procurement involves everyone, not just those managing contracts. Requesters help set criteria for selecting environmentally friendly products and services. Sustainability criteria are currently being developed for products and services. We support you through the entire procurement process, from prioritizing suppliers to reviewing sustainability documentation. If a critical supplier declines assessment, the Ad Hoc Sustainability Committee can provide guidance. For assistance at any stage, contact sustainable.procurement@msf.org. Through sustainable procurement, we fulfill our humanitarian mission by prioritizing workers' rights and advocating for environmentally and socially responsible products and services.
Voila. So this was a short video that we developed, and it really brings together everything that we try to work on at the same time. But now we're going to go into a bit more detail into some of the points that were in the video. So I'm just going to start sharing the presentation again. It might take a second. And we were all the way here. Okay. Okay. So before we go any further, from everything that Corentine presented and from the video that we just shared, do you think that CO2 reduction is the main goal of sustainable procurement? Again, you can use the chat to submit your answer. It's important, but it's not the only goal. Yes, that is correct. Indeed, CO2 reduction, like Corentine was saying, CO2 emissions, we calculate them and we try to estimate them, but we have still a lot of questions around the methodology, and it's not enough to simply cut down our emissions to fulfill our sustainability ambitions in general in MSF. Very well. Okay. So what else is there then in that case in our sustainability approach? Well, we focused so far on the environmental aspect of things, on our carbon footprint, on mitigating our pollution on the environment, and on implementing better waste management procedures, and trying not to deplete natural resources through the activities that we manage. But there is also economic sustainability and also social responsibility. So in terms of the economic sustainability, what we want to focus on is really understanding the total cost of ownership of the items, goods or services that we procure. We want to promote fair trade whenever it's possible, and also try to have more positive impact through our procurement activities, and providing capacity building and, where possible, community development. On the social aspect, it's becoming more and more important for MSF, for the humanitarian community, to make sure that we promote fair labor practices, and that we respect, that we have strong ambitions and that we stick to them in terms of diversity and inclusion. So all of that together really encompasses everything that we try to do in sustainable procurement. As we were saying, it is entirely part of MSF's social mission to fulfill those ambitions. It's linked to the do no harm commitment of the humanitarian sector in general, but it's also very closely linked to the principles that we lay out in our global procurement policy that's been signed in 2021 and again recently this year by all the supply directors in MSF. On top of that, we know that there are growing, there is a more and more strict legal framework around protecting the environment and disclosing information for businesses. Today, the humanitarian sector is not impacted by those regulations, but we do want to uphold those standards as much as possible. And also we cannot act like it's never going to be applied to the humanitarian sector. So as much as possible, we want to operate within this evolving legal framework around sustainability. So this is everything that we try to include in our approach. So before we get into the more processy things, we'd like to know about how familiar you are with the different tools that have been developed by Corentin and my team in the past years. So do things like supplier code of conduct, EcoVadis, purchasing conditions, questionnaire, selection criteria, etc. Do they resonate with you? Are you familiar with those? And would you know how to use them? If you know which they are to begin with. And to be honest, this is a little tricky if you're not doing procurement yourself. You would not be 100% expected to be familiar with that. But yeah, you're right. It's answer C. We do have a code of conduct that we share with our suppliers. We put in place some supplier assessments, and we also develop criteria at product and service level. So we will get into that in the next few slides. And it's okay if you're not familiar with that, Sunday. Fully expected, and that's we assume that's also why you joined the webinar today. So that's really good news. So first of all, in MSF, there is a common agreement to refer to the same framework when we talk about strategic procurement. So we developed this 7-step of procurement approach, and it's more or less how would I say it? It's more or less globally accepted in MSF that when we conduct strategic procurement, so that's major tenders or really critical procurement, we follow these 7 steps. So what we're going to take you through as of now is really for each of these 7 steps, how you can bring the sustainability element into it. So these 7 steps are described in more detail in the resource library, for which you have a link here that you can access. But we will go through them one by one. So the first step really looks at analyzing your spend data. So the idea here, when you start procurement of a specific category, is for you to gather all the information that we have available in terms of how many orders we've placed, with how many suppliers, for what total amount over the year, with what fluctuations across the year, things like that. So this is what happens during the spend analysis phase. What we want to include in this phase in terms of sustainability is to systematically have an in-depth sustainability approach where the procurement, where the category or the tender that you are preparing is expected to represent more than 100,000 euros a year. We also have a list of categories of items that we buy regularly in MSF that are considered high risk in terms of sustainability. And for those categories, we strongly recommend to have a detailed sustainability approach to the procurement process. So you can see these categories are different depending from where you work. And most of you, yes, all of you actually are work in the field. So for you, for example, these categories would be fuel, rentals, freight services, AC, power supply, and subcontracted services. Most of the time in larger missions, those are anyways the categories that we spend more than 100,000 euros on. But in smaller missions, we also want to include them in our sustainability approach. Okay. So for the second step, I hand over to Corentine, and I will catch up in a few slides.
So when you look at your need, so basically here that's where you will speak with the requester. So it's good because here we have requesters around us. So requesters from a procurement perspective, from people in supply. So basically so you will clarify what needs to be checked to address sustainability, and sustainability can always be addressed at two levels, as you can understand. So we look at supplier level. So here we check what are the measures that are put in place by the suppliers in order to mitigate its impact on the environment, but also to ensure that some working conditions meet a certain number of requirements. So that's where we look at the signature of the code of conduct, supplier code of conduct. There is also the sustainability assessment, and you heard earlier about EcoVadis or the MSF questionnaire. This is something that is very much used at HQ and supply center level. At field level, we know that the current version of the questionnaire is not adapted, and that EcoVadis neither. So we are also reflecting, and would be happy, Himen, since you are here, would be happy also to get also some insights from you, from the field, to know how we can better reflect the reality of our supplier in the field, and the language as well. We know it's not adapted yet. So far, we have to be really transparent and clear about it. The sustainability assessment at supplier level is not used in the field. And then there is also the financial credibility check using a tool, Duns and Brad, if I'm not mistaken, just to make sure that the person, the supplier we are working with, the person we are about to work with will have the capacity, the financial capacity to pay us. So voilà, that's. And by the way, Steph, just I don't know if it's something that is well used in the field, and just maybe you can complement on that. But yeah.
Yes, actually, it's available for field procurement as well, and it's becoming more and more used, especially in contexts where there is a lot of scrutiny around ownership of businesses, etc. So in certain contexts, it's really picking up. And at the moment, I'm working with the intersectional procurement managers to see how we can make it easier for teams in missions to use it. It's not easy to interpret. It's quite a dense report that gets issued by the platform. But I would say in general, there is a lot. There is more and more attention around what Duns and Bradstreet allows us to do.
Thank you. On product and services, so maybe you can go to the next slide. So here, that's where we can make a difference in thinking of all the environmental impacts that are generating by a certain number of products, and yeah, you voilà. The question being, actually, we know it's not really easy to challenge a need expressed by a requester, but question can be whether we, instead of buying it, we can rent it or borrow it from someone else. And then you look at also the different sustainability impacts and how we can mitigate them. Looking at the energy used to power the items, the type of gas, and Zaki, you mentioned earlier the work you already started to do on HVAC. And we are aware of the recently released guidance by OCPA on HVAC product. So that's a great one, and that's exactly the type of products we are focusing on. So to make it clear, OCPA is clearly ahead compared to other sections in providing this criteria to procurement people. So voilà, it's also thinking of the end of life. So I guess you are all also dealing with this end of life items that are piling up in your warehouses or elsewhere. So question can be around us if we can find suppliers that are able to collect it at the end of life. Keeping in mind that just not a matter of collecting an end-of-life item, but making sure that the way these items will be dismantled, disposed of, etc., complies also with our standard. And so far, there is no one single standard for all OCs. So yeah, just refer to your Watson reference to know how to validate this kind of recycling facilities. Next slide. So we started already to work on the development of criteria for product and services. Again, as I said, OCPA, you did a great job. You referred in the HQ in sharing with procurement people the criteria to consider when buying this kind of product at field level. This is a work that we are doing also for other authorities, because today we know that some criteria exist. They exist in a number of documents and logistics guidelines and so on. But usually, people in supply and procurement, they don't know them. So it's important also that everybody is aligned and knows what needs to be taken into account when buying air conditioner, electric appliances, water heaters, etc. So we have already some criteria that are on the SharePoint. We know that at field level you don't use much the SharePoint, so that's one. That's why we are reflecting on what can be done. We have also started to develop some criteria for services such as a hotel, bank, insurance, pension fund. So again, on this, we need also to improve, but you can already have some idea, and don't hesitate to reach out to us. Yes, Imen.
Hello.
Hello.
Speaking of the procurement manager.
We can't hear you properly. If you can go closer to the mic, or I don't.
There's some noise. Okay. So can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. So you were mentioning that we will find in the SharePoint documents regarding the sustainable procurement.
Yep.
But the supply manager, the procurement manager present in the field, they don't have access, or they don't access this information documents. So I think part of maybe the procurement advisors for different OCs or different missions, for them also to share this information with the current procurement and procurement managers existing in the mission, because as you know, they don't have like long contracts. Some of them spend like 6 months, 1 year in the mission, and maybe during the handover or the transition for the next procurement manager, the information doesn't also be handover or transmitted to the person. So it's always, I think it needs to always remind or have advisors or the technical reference to always remind and include this during the onboarding, so when they are sharing the procurement guidelines with the current procurement or supply manager.
Yeah, thank you. Point taken. And again, that's our job. Also to make sure that in the coming months, years, what we designed in terms of sustainable procurement guidelines is translated into your OCPA guidelines, but also that in there you can find a link to these criteria, so that the information doesn't get lost anytime we have a handover between international mobile staff, or even between people. Thank you. So these are the kind of criteria that you can find when going on the SharePoint. You can find similar things in the recent, in the guidance that was recently launched by OCPA. Basically, the idea is really to provide a minimum criteria, and because we know that the CBA, the multi-criteria CBA, is not used much in the field, so we need to just have minimum criteria, like okay. If you and you mentioned it, Zaki, so we need to have kind of requirements such as okay, no more Air22 gas and these kind of things. So here in what you find on the screen, here it's assuming that people will use a multi-criteria comparative bid analysis, which actually we know it's not extremely used in the field. So we will probably go to minimum criteria. Voilà. So voilà, in terms of what's ongoing currently for log item, what I mentioned, we are developing criteria, and we will get also inspired a lot, but by what was done by OCPA. We will look at the best way to make this criteria accessible to both requester and purchaser. We were thinking of Unicat, but actually we know that Unicat is not super used. So voilà. So I mentioned here your OCPA guidelines. Maybe that's the way all OCs should go, like just a memo, a guideline, something, a separate document that is sent to all missions without putting it in one specific tools. Let's see. On services on services, that's where we also need to further develop some criteria, and we are available for you, because that's something for which we would be very happy to get requests and provide support. And on medical items, the work has started, but it's way more complicated because it's a very highly regulated space, let's say. So there is, we are quite limited. However, so there is one ongoing project that is called single-use medical items, on which we start looking at how we can reduce the impact of single-use medical items, like phasing out some substances, no more PVC, no more other toxic substances. And for drugs and medical equipment, we will work on it in a later stage. Voilà. But this is the ongoing. So here it's the list of products for which criteria or will be developed. Again, HVAC, water heater, etc. And you can go to the next slide, Steph. And IT product also, because IT product, they are mainly procured in the field. Only laptops are procured at HQ level. Over.
Thank you. So that's really all of that. Really, we wanted to present to you at the second step of procurement, because we really believe that this is when you should have the conversation with your requesters around the criteria that you will use in the further steps of the procurement process to select the right providers. Now, once you have your specifications and your criteria developed and agreed with your requester, you, as a procurement person, can go out to the market and find the best offers possible. So there are multiple ways that you can do that. You can use a request for information, a request for quotation, a request for proposal, depending on the knowledge of the market locally, or depending on the complexity also of the services or that you try to procure. But in any case, what we recommend in terms of sustainability at this stage is to include everything around sustainability in the document that you share with the potential suppliers in the market. That means mentioning in an RFQ or in an RFP that MSF have a code of conduct, that suppliers need to sign it. So attaching the code of conduct to the sourcing document if that's relevant. Mentioning also the assessments that we do for our most important suppliers. Also mentioning that there will be different types of criteria applied to the selection process, some of which will look at how sustainable the products that are being offered are, or how or how the supplier obtains their own primary materials, etc. So in terms of sharing our ambitions with the supplier in terms of sustainability, it really starts at this step 3 of the procurement process. And of course, on top of that, you can, for example, look for innovative solutions also to fulfill the need as your requester has expressed it. But basically, you have once you have interrogated the market, what you have to do is to select the best offer possible. At this point, you can always ask for help to help you read through the proposals that you have received. It's not always obvious technically or even from the sustainability perspective to read those propositions. Let's say, for example, you are procuring air conditioners and it's your first time. You don't necessarily know which of the refrigerant gases are most efficient, which of the substances used to cool the system are most toxic, etc. So you can reach for help technically, and you can also reach for help in terms of the process of how to reflect that into the selection matrix of the offers that you received. So based on the criteria that you have established with your requester, you will prepare a form of matrix. We call it the comparative bid analysis. But as Corentine was saying, we know that there are still quite a few different versions of that document to really record the components of all the offers that you have. And you can use that to allocate the right weighting to the different kind of criteria that you include, one of which is sustainability criteria. We really recommend to have between 10 and 20% of the total weight linked to sustainability. That can be on the side of the supplier as a company, how sustainable they are, or on the side of the items or services that you are buying. Are they the most sustainable options, basically, to fulfill the need? So, sorry. So you have yes, you have some of the criteria that you can include in the selection process are the signature of the code of conduct. So if the supplier returns the code of conduct signed, for example, it can be a positive impact on their score. Likewise, if the supplier accepts to do a sustainability assessment, that can be reflected in the comparative bid analysis, as well as the score that they obtain. That can help you rank suppliers in terms of the sustainability performance. And finally, you can have criteria specifically developed around the product that you are buying. In the field, we know that there is more impact on the side of the items that we buy. So we know that the supplier maturity level in the missions that we operate in is usually low. So it's less interesting to insist on the sustainability of a supplier than it is to develop sustainability criteria for the items that you are buying. Okay, it's not really true in the supply centers or in headquarter procurement because we deal with completely different types of suppliers. And in fact, we buy very specific items that we cannot necessarily change the specifications for. So there is actually more impact to be obtained from working with more sustainable suppliers and buying the exact same articles. So depending on where you are doing the procurement form, it makes more sense to base your sustainability evaluation more or less on the supplier sustainability or on the item or service sustainability. Overall, this is really about the split of the 10 to 20% that you allocate to sustainability between supplier criteria and item criteria. So this is an example of a comparative bid analysis that's in use in OCP. And this is specifically for the procurement of air conditioning units. And you see that I'm going to use the pointer here. In the columns here, you have the different criteria. So you have delivery lead time, payment terms. Is it a known supplier for MSF or not? Do they provide a certified installation and after-sales services? And you see at the end of the line, you have the two technical components that we are evaluating to measure the sustainability of the offer. So the energy efficiency rating and the type of refrigerant gas that they offer. So in practice, this is what it can look like when you include sustainability in your selection process. So before I introduce you to the supplier code of conduct, I want to know if, of course, there will be no bad marks for that. But have you ever seen the MSF supplier code of conduct in the missions where you have worked? Okay, nice. Okay, that's really good. Very nice. Okay, so I'm going to quickly introduce it to you. I will be as fast as possible because I see that we are running out of time. But basically, we brought in a supplier code of conduct to better communicate with our suppliers around our own ambitions in terms of sustainability and responsibility. Also to cover ourselves legally, to make it easier for us to break relationships with suppliers when it becomes obvious that they do not respect our ambitions, and also to mitigate reputational and organizational risks. So the code of conduct looks at 4 different types of behaviors that or characteristics that we expect from our suppliers. First of all, it's about the labor and the ethical standards. So how suppliers treat their workforce, essentially. Do they also provide means to prevent abuse? What financial standards do they uphold? And what do they have in place to manage fraud internally? And what do they have in place as well to protect the environment? So these are really the 4 pillars of the supplier code of conduct. I don't go into details of this slide, but the objective here is to make you understand that depending on how the code of conduct is used, it can be legally binding, meaning that it can form part of the contractual relationship between MSF and the supplier if it's well integrated into the contract. And in that case, it's easier to get out of the relationship if there is an issue with the commitment of the supplier. And on the other hand, sometimes it can be just informative. There are some suppliers who will not accept to simply take on board all of our ambitions as a customer and make them their own. And that's understandable. It's worrying because these principles revolve around ethics and our commitment to the environment, but it is understandable that some suppliers have their own code of conduct, for example, and that it's slightly different from ours. And in that case, we just share it with them as an information. We have different guidance on how to use the code of conduct. It really depends on where you are and what kind of market you are working in. So for example, here, all of you, I think, work in the field. So we recommend to use the code of conduct with suppliers of more than 100,000 euros per year, or that belong to these high-risk categories that we mentioned earlier. And you can bring in the code of conduct either when you are starting a relationship with a new supplier, or when you are regularly reviewing the performance, or extending the contract, for example, or at any point of contact during the supplier relationship. Of course, we give recommendations, we give minimum expectations, but in some missions, it makes sense to share the code of conduct with all of the suppliers. That's a decision that can be made at mission level. You don't need to seek permission for that. Of course, there are also specific cases where it can be more difficult to implement the code of conduct. And in that case, you can always contact the sustainable procurement email address, which is essentially Quarantine and myself monitoring it, to ask for help on how to deploy the code of conduct in your own work environment. So the code of conduct is one of the tools that we have, and then we also measure the commitment of our suppliers to sustainability through assessments. For the assessment, we have two options. We have EcoVadis, who is an external partner who provide really in-depth analysis of practices in a company. And they basically issue a scorecard at the end of their evaluation, where you can see the different areas of sustainability and how well the supplier performs in each of those areas. Another option for suppliers who either don't have the time to complete an EcoVadis assessment or don't want to invest any budget into that, because EcoVadis has a small cost to it. We also have internally developed a questionnaire that is an online form that we can share with the suppliers. And when a supplier takes the MSF questionnaire, it comes to our mailbox and we do the analysis of the replies. And we issue a score. Of course, we don't consider both options as equivalent. The EcoVadis assessment is much more in-depth. So we have an equivalence table to match the scores that you can obtain in each of the assessment methodologies. So the idea is that even if you score the maximum number of points in the MSF supplier sustainability assessment, you will never score the maximum number of points overall, because the best analysis of the supplier MSF assessment is not worth as much as the best evaluation coming from EcoVadis. We are not professionals in doing these assessments. We go through just certificates that are shared with us, policies, but our assessment is not as complete as the EcoVadis assessment. So here you have more information on how to use each assessment methodology. It's not really worth going through all of that right now, but when you want to assess a supplier that you work with, here is where you can check how to use either options. So as a bit of a wrap up on the assessment aspect, we have just one quick question. So let's say you are going to launch a request for quotation, and you have 4 weeks for the suppliers to get back to you with all the information that you need to select the supplier. So in that case, what do you think will be the best option to evaluate the sustainability level? Okay. Okay, so here, interesting. Here, just simply because of the time that the EcoVadis assessment requires, you will not be able to complete an EcoVadis assessment within this 4 weeks time frame. Usually it takes about 3-4 months to complete. So what we recommend is to check with your suppliers if they already have an EcoVadis assessment, and in that case, if they can simply share it with you. And if they don't, then it's more practical and faster to take the MSF questionnaire. Okay, D makes more sense, indeed. Right. So to finalize on the 7 steps of procurement, so we are at step 5, which concerns negotiating and allocating your market to the right suppliers. So here, what we really want to emphasize is that sustainability can become one more component of your negotiation. Saying, for example, in a given situation, you will not necessarily be able to select the supplier that has the best approach to sustainability, that proposes the most sustainable items, or that has that expresses their commitment to sustainability in the strongest way. But you can use some characteristics of their offer to make the offer of those that you actually want to work with match this level of performance. For example, very quickly, if a supplier offers to do circular logistics, so to take back some items and dispose of them in a clean manner, but their service is 30% more expensive, you will probably not select that supplier, but you can ask the supplier that you select after the selection process to match that provision of service. Okay, so in order to do that, we really encourage you to use the negotiation chart that's available so that you list the points that you can bring into the negotiation phase, even if you cannot necessarily go for the strongest offer in sustainability. You can make the supplier that you will work with match, at least partially, the quality of the offer of the most sustainable supplier. So when it comes to the contract phase, so we recommend that, of course, the supplier code of conduct is attached to the contract that the supplier signs, that in the contract, you include the commitment to complete the sustainability assessment, if that's part of what you negotiated with the supplier, that you include the sustainability clause to double up on the code of conduct in the contract. And if you want, you can even include objectives in terms of sustainability in the contract. So to do that, we really encourage you to work with the templates that you have validated in your entity, in your mission, or whoever provides the contract templates. And with your legal department, if you need to modify those templates. So finally, we make it to the 7 steps, which revolves around managing the performance of the suppliers that we work with. If you have included sustainability in the contractual commitment of the supplier, then you would regularly monitor the performance or the actions taken by the supplier to match those requirements. And where you have the performance, let's say, scorecard with the supplier, where you look at performance of the supplier on different aspects, you can very much add an aspect of sustainability and discuss that during your performance reviews. So this is how, step by step, you can bring sustainability into the procurement process. So if we summarize, you have the code of conduct, you have methodologies to assess the sustainability of suppliers. We recognize that in the field today, these 2 methodologies are not easy to implement. And we are working on lighter versions of that to make it more manageable for the field teams to have those conversations with the suppliers. And most importantly, when you buy something, or whether it's a product or a service, you can use existing sustainability criteria that you can find on SharePoint, or reach out to sustainableprocurement@msf.org to ask for criteria to be developed. Okay. Sorry, I see there is a discussion going on in the chat. Yes, that's correct, Soleil. That's the guidance that we give. So knowing all of that, and to open up the discussion a little bit, if you have time, obviously, what do you think will be the main challenges in the context that you work in to really implement this approach to sustainable procurement. You can choose one of the answers that's proposed on the slide, but you can also simply open your microphone and explain, or use the chat to give some examples. Yes,
Hello?
Zaki, go ahead, please.
Yeah, maybe just very quick. It's both in A and B is the sustainability awareness of the team and sustainability for the suppliers. As in our mission, we have all the specialists actually for the technical validation when doing the market assessment and the standard list. But I think it's very important to involve this technical team in the awareness and also to know these criteria when doing the assessment, not only about the quality or the cost. So I
And
think
you
it will
feel
be well.
it's still difficult to convince specialists to include those criteria?
Maybe in some points to avoid to have this point with the supply process and the technical validation is to have all on the same page, the technical team and the supply team. Yeah, I think it's very linked.
Understand. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, Zaki. Soleil, so for you, it's more on the side of the suppliers, you think, right? I don't know if you can speak up, Soleil, or only using the chat.
Oh, sorry, I did not get the question very well.
No, I mean for you, like the challenge is more around
exactly
the awareness in the suppliers, yeah.
Yeah, awareness in the suppliers because we have different understandings, and they are more on the side on the profit makers than complying with our rules and regulations. So it's our awareness is a bit complicated.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I had a conversation with someone working in another organization recently who said that they organized a day with their biggest suppliers in their mission to really take them through their organization's ambitions, why they want to work with suppliers towards more sustainable alternatives, what they are trying to achieve, etc. So they invited them in their offices for a full day, and they kind of just raised awareness on those questions with their suppliers, which I thought was a really interesting initiative. Of course, we don't always have the time to do that, definitely, and it's it's not easy to engage our suppliers around those questions, but I thought it was an interesting approach. And yes, of course, Imen, we know that it's not easy to embark requesters when they have a very clear idea of exactly what they want and exactly how quickly they want it delivered. So definitely, I think those two are the most common challenges that we face. Okay, so I'm actually done with the presentation. So if you have some questions and some extra time, I'm happy to take them. And if not, I just leave you with when I send you the presentation, you will find links to pretty much everything that we mentioned. So yeah, over to you. If you have any technical questions or anything you'd like to know more about, we are very happy to be available for that. Okay, well, thank you, everybody. Yes. Sorry. Yes, Soleil, you have a hand up. Go ahead.
Yes. Thank you so very much for the presentation.
You're very welcome.
Quite interesting. Even if I'm new, as I said, I'm new, and I'm waiting for my first mission.
Okay,
so yeah, I got this email for procurement sustainability, and I really got interested in joining and being proactive. And
so I look forward to hearing from you, Soleil, during your first mission. Okay?
Yes.
Email us.
Sure. Yeah. So my question was, do we have because I'm joining as a supply manager, and do we have these meetings for procurement or maybe supply and procurement regularly for staff to refresh, discussions between the teams, sharing challenges and some updates? Like, do we have regular meetings around, I may say, the globe, or the meetings occur in different operation centers? Thank you.
Thank you. That's a really good question, actually, Soleil. So maybe, I mean, depending on the functions that you have in your mission, you will or you will not be invited to those sessions. I say that because we do have what we call a field procurement platform that convenes at least quarterly, I would say, where we bring in people doing procurement from the field. And so if you have procurement responsibilities in your mission, you will be invited to those sessions. And in those sessions, you will find people doing procurement in the field, but from every section. And this is where we, for example, we introduce new processes, or indeed somebody can bring up their specific challenges to discuss them with others. But it's only really for procurement staff. So only for people who have procurement responsibilities, which is not always the case when you are a supply manager. Depending on the setup in your mission, it can vary.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. But in any case, our email address, sustainableprocurement@msf.org here, is monitored by Corentin and myself. And we really encourage you to use it to send us also, information about the challenges, the successes that you face, so that we can also fine tune our approach with other teams in the field and learn from you actually what works and what doesn't. And if not invited to the field procurement platform, then I guess you would have other platforms existing, but I'm not part, or I'm not in charge of the supply chain community of practice, to be honest. So I cannot really give you an answer on that. Sorry.
No worries.
Voilà. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Like I said, expect to receive this presentation in the coming days. And if you know people who might be interested to follow the session in French later today or in Spanish tomorrow, feel free to encourage them to join us. Voilà. Thank you so much. And we hope to hear from you soon when you are on a mission with examples of how we can help you. Voilà. Thank you. Thank you. Have a good rest of your days. Ciao, ciao.
Thank you too.
Bye.
Bye.